Good evening to all of you friends. In our previous class, we started the discussion based on the print and how it shaped the modern world. As the chapter was quite lengthy, so in my today's class, I will be discussing some other things related to that previous discussion. We have discussed about this wood printing. After that, how it reached to the various parts of the world. In Japan, Kitagawa Uta Amaro, and after that it reached to the Italy through Marco Polo, and later on Britain. Today I will be discussing how it reached in India and what kind of changes were seen through this print, how it impacted the lives of the people, and how it brought the society into a completely different paradigm shift. As we know that this print, it became a very powerful source to disseminate the information and the knowledge and the point of view. On the one hand, where the intellectual people were taking the help of this print and generating an awareness among the masses, at the same time the social and cultural institutions like the churches, the Catholic churches in Rome, they were very afraid. They thought that we are very strong, but these people are attacking by their writings over this institution. Since we are completely dependent upon this institution, and up to a certain extent, you can say the king was also dependent upon that church, because internally the instructions were given by the church to the king, and that's how the society was told. But this war of information vibrated the foundation of the church and other social institutions. Those were not established on the basis of logic, on the basis of rationality, on the basis of intellectualism. One person whose name is Martin Luther. Don't get confused with the Martin Luther King, because Martin Luther King belongs to 20th century, parallel to Gandhiji, a leading figure of the civil rights movement in USA. Here, this is only Martin Luther, not the king. This Martin Luther belongs to 16th century. Actually, what he did, he wrote a thesis based on the Old Testament, that was the scripture related to the Catholics, and he challenged to the church that if you have the courage, you come to me and have a discussion over it. So many copies of the thesis which was written by Martin Luther were traveled across the world, and they sold in such a fast manner that Martin Luther has to generate a second edition of his thesis. Martin Luther King told that print is the ultimate gift of the God. I mean, just understand what kind of title has been given. Ultimate gift of the God. So you can very easily imagine what was the level of credit this Martin Luther gave to the print, because of this print he was able to bring a revolution among the people. He was able to extract the points those were not logical enough, not rational enough, and given in the scriptures. He realized that because of this print, my information is reaching across the world. That's why he gave a term to this print, that print is the ultimate gift of the God. The institutions, those are being attacked by the people like him, they were also not silent. They started their own propaganda. How to save? So, the logic can be cut by the logic. Therefore, they also started writing and they tried to justify the church and other institutions. So that's how this thing kept on happening. But sometimes they also crossed the limit. I mean, the institutions, the churches, they crossed the limit because one a person, he was a miller. Miller means a person who works in the mills. Whose name was Manocchio. Manocchio. He was from Italy. And what he did, that he reinterpreted the scriptures of these Bible related scriptures. And when he reinterpreted, so his interpretation was completely different from the original one. I mean, mainly he was seeing everything through the prism of logic and common sense. So he did not believe on those things. Those were based upon the supernatural power and these kinds of things. This Manocchio was warned by the churches one or two times. I think 2 times he was also captured and he was told that, look, you don't do this thing. Your interpretation of these scriptures is, not right. Not right means according to their sense perception was not right. But he was a person who did not believe on those supernatural things. That's why he reinterpreted. And I'm cutting the long story short. This Manocchio, a very famous figure of Italy who fought a war of words against the established institution churches, finally got executed. But after the execution, he became immortal. That's why we are discussing about it. As far as our country is concerned, this printing mechanism, it was brought by the Portuguese in the late, or not late, in the middle of the 16th century. And, yes. And after that, when it reached to India, the revolution started in India as well. My God, so many newspapers were published. So many scriptures, religious writings were published. The Ramcharitmanas was printed for the very first time in Bengal in 1810. This Gita was, by the way, Gita was translated by a person whose name was Wilkinson something. Okay. Wilkinson. We are not discussing about the translation, we are discussing about the print. First time this Ramcharitmanas, which was written by
Valmiki.
And what Tulsidas wrote. Tulsidas what wrote?
तुलसीदास की रामचरितमानस अलग है, वाल्मीकि ओरिजिनल है.
Yes.
ओरिजिनल है.
So Tulsidas is also related to this scripture. So it was first time printed in Bengal in 1810. But before that, so many things happened. And once this printed technology reached on the Indian soil, the Jesuit priests, they printed the books, those were based on the Kannada language and some other South Indian languages. Tamil also. The first Tamil language book which was printed, that I am not giving the name of the book, that was printed in 1579, Tamil. So the printing technology that was brought, that printed the first Tamil language book in India in 1579. And the first book which was based upon the Malayalam language, that was printed in India in 1713. Malayalam. Malayalam is the language belongs to Kerala, the God's own country. So Tamil and Malayalam. After that, let me talk about, by the way, English. Okay, nowadays it is being taught by not very huge proportion of the population, but the influence of this language, after all, India was ruled by the Britishers. This language came in a very late stage in terms of printing, because Tamil had been printed and this Malayalam had been printed, Konkani had also been printed before the printing began in connection to the English. And the first English newspaper which was printed in India, in fact, this newspaper is not the first English newspaper in India, but also the first English printed newspaper in Asia. Any idea?
Hindustan,
Bengal Gazette. Bengal Gazette. Hickey. James Hickey. It was printed in 1820. I mean, just think, the 1579, 1713, and this English language first newspaper in 1820. James Hickey.
पढ़ने वाला भी चाहिए इंग्लिश में.
Oh,
जब इंग्लिश बढ़ गई तो छाप दी.
that time so many Britishers were living. They were getting the materials from other sources. Okay. James Hickey, that's how he comes into picture. And this James Hickey, he owned a private sort of newspaper. There was no any connection of the government. And look, you might think that James Hickey, as he was, by the way, he was an Irishman from Ireland. So generally people think, oh, he was an Englishman, so he was an Irish, so he should have supported the idea of the British government. But no, he was very much against by the things those were being done by the British East India Company at that point of time. This Hickey wrote so many things about the slave trade, which was completely immoral, illegal, so on and so forth. And this James Hickey also wrote about some of the things those were not legally correct and were being done by the officials of the East India Company. I mean, how they are accepting the gifts and how they are, taking the bribes and all those things. Basically, he opened the character of the East India Company. I mean, he tried to do this. And the matter became so intensified that the Warren Hastings, the Governor General at that point of time, he had to come forward and he sued the newspaper, this Bengal Gazette, in the Bengal court. And this newspaper, within 2 years, it couldn't survive for longer duration. Within 2 years, in 1822, it was buried. This James Hickey was an eccentric man because he had already imprisoned for 2 years as the matter was related to this debt. But you just think that this James Hickey, how he challenged the whole British government at that time, and wherein Hastings has to come forward. By the way, this Bengal Gazette was not the only Bengal Gazette. It was it was related to English language, but there is one more Bengal Gazette, but that does not belong to English language. That Bengal Gazette it belongs to which language? Bengali. Okay, Bengali. And who was the founder? I think Gangadhar something.
Gangadhar.
Okay, Gangadhar something. So this Bengal Gazette, which belongs to this Gangadhar, was very close to Raja Ram Mohan Roy. It was the first Bengali newspaper. This Bengali newspaper, some people say, was founded in 1816 and some say in 1818. Because we don't have even a single printed copy of this newspaper. And this newspaper, why it couldn't survive? Because it found the printing the paper very expensive. The cost of the paper which is required to print the newspaper, they found it is very costly. So within 1 or maximum 2 years, it also surrendered. But they lived for a very short duration. But since the things were being done for the very first time, that's why they became immortal. This Bengal Gazette is started by James Hickey. It also couldn't survive for more than 2 years. But still we are discussing about it. This Bengal Gazette, founded by Gangadhar, either on 1816 or in 1818, as it is the matter of debate, also couldn't survive for more than 2 years owing to the huge cost of the paper material. After that, one more newspaper comes. That was a weekly newspaper started by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Any idea?
Miratul.
No, I'm not discussing about this Miratul. What do you think about Samvad Kaumudi? Samvad Kaumudi. So this Samvad Kaumudi, actually Samvad Kaumudi. Look, basically whatever I will be discussing now onwards, they are related to the how to introduce to the people about the social evils those are present in the society. These newspapers or these written materials, they started having the discussion based on the widow emolution, the sati system, child marriage, monotheism, polytheism, so on and so forth. Mainly they targeted the social evils present in the society. And this Samvad Kaumudi related to Raja Ram Mohan Roy was one of them. It was founded in 1822. Look, in 1822, so many newspapers were founded. In 1822, this Samad Kaumudi was founded. In 1822, the Samachar Chandrika was founded. In 1822, the first Persian newspaper was founded. Any idea? Jane Jahanuma. In 1882, Samsul Akbar was founded, and some other newspapers also. So this year 1822, very significant. Samvad Kaumudi, the things those were written in this newspaper, they were related to the Sati and some other social events, but Sati was the main focus of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Raja Ram Mohan Roy wanted to generate an awareness among the masses through this Samvad Kaumudi. Raja Ram Mohan Roy also went to William Bentinck to tell him that you please bring a legislation so that we could stop this murder or this practice. When this Samad, and there is an interesting development, William Bentinck told to Raja Ram Mohan Roy that how can I believe on you only? You do one thing, that you bring at least 100 people who are against this Sati system. When Raja Ram Mohan Roy reached to William Bentinck with his 100 supporters, believe me, at the same time, Radhakant Dev reached to the same William Bentinck with 200 people who were in the fear of this Sati system. So just think how difficult it was to fight these social evils which have been fixed into the DNA of the society. It was a bit easy to convince to the people to be in the fear of the Sati, in contrast to convince the people to be against the Sati system. So this Samvad Kaumudi, by the way, it was founded in 1821, and in 1822 this Samachar Chandrika of Radhakant Dev. By the way, this Samachar Chandrika was founded by Bhavani Charan Chattopadhyay. But this was related to Dharma Sabha, with which Radhakant Dev was related. So this Samvad Kaumudi, after that Samachar Chandrika, and after that some Urdu language newspaper and some Parsi language newspaper. The one of them which was printed in 1822 was Jane Jahanuma. Jane Jahanuma. Initially it was printed in Urdu language, but later on it was converted in Persian language completely. It became exclusive newspaper of Persian language. But one problem was in this newspaper that it was supported by the British government at that time. British government provided some assistance to this newspaper. You can say it was under the patronage of the British government, so you can very easily understand why the newspaper will write anything against the system. And because of this non-neutrality of the newspaper, because newspaper must be neutral. By the way, even now the debate is going on in present context, which newspaper is more neutral. And sometimes people get to know by reading the first news itself. This newspaper is inclined in which a direction. So this Jane Jahanuma, it was because it was under the patronage of the British government, it was not reflecting the true picture of the society. The aspirations of the people were not reflected. And because of this problem, a very, very famous, I would say, means the person who tells the poetry, you can say, a sire, commented over this newspaper that the information provided through this newspaper are not correct and based on some sort of the idea which is not right in the society. And that person was no one else but Ghalib, who was born where Ghalib took birth?
दिल्ली
No.
आगरा
Yes, he was born in Agra. So he accused this Jane Jahanuma, the first Urdu, after that became Persian language newspaper in India, of not reporting the right information. Okay, so this Ghalib, I don't think it requires any introduction. I want to tell one shairi told by this Ghalib. Do you know any single shairi? Huh? I was listening. That was something like this. जंग हो या इश्क हो, भरपूर होना चाहिए, फैसला जो कुछ भी हो मंजूर होना चाहिए. By the way, this does not belong to Ghalib. It was told by Rahat Indori. Okay, Ghalib told that गुनाह कर जाओगे कहाँ गालिब, ये जमी और ये आसमां उसी का है. So that's how the development happens. And this Jane Jahanuma, after the Jane Jahanuma, Shamsul Akhbar was also printed in the same year, but this Shamsul Akhbar was printed where? In Delhi. In Delhi, as that time Delhi was the center of this Urdu language and all these things. After this, what happens? After this, some of the Muslim people came forward, because a Muslim thought that if we are not doing something, then who knows, this British government is submerging everything and changing according to them. They thought that the Muslim personal law can be abolished. So these Muslim people, they also came forward and they tried to take the people into their confidence. They don't wanted to get dilute their orthodoxy culture and what are the things they have been believing. Because if any new thing comes and you are not protecting your own thing, it will start getting deteriorated and it will dilute, and a time will come when the original essence will be completely compromised. So these Muslim people, they also came forward, and one of the organization which was founded in 1867, that was Deoband missionary something. And this Deoband, what it did, that it issued so many fatwas to tell the people that, look, you have to follow this thing, you have to do this thing, you have to kept on binding yourself with the Islamic principles, because their ultimate objective was to how to have the people into our confidence. Don't lose their support, and they can only be binded if they are following the belief system which you have been believing for, ever since you thought about it. So the Muslim people, they also came forward and used the technology of this printing and took the people into their confidence. So many religious texts were printed, not only in Islam religion but also in Hindu religion. For instance, the Ramcharitmanas wrote by Tulsidas in the 16th century, it was printed for the very first time in the year 1810 in Bengal. So you can say this print culture, it revolutionized the whole country. Later on, it revolutionized the whole world, and people get to know what is happening, because once the newspaper, if you are getting the New York Times in your mobile, and what is happening in Palestine and Hamas, there will no any border will work to separate you, and people started understanding each other's emotions, each other's thought perception, how they are behaving, how they are managing their life, and everything. It got interconnected through this print. So we should see the significance of print in such a manner that this print binded the whole humanity into one thread. So this was from my side. We will be discussing if some things are remaining in our coming lectures. Namaskar.